You are still watching Issues at Hand on Church of Uganda Family TV. My name is Bruno Edgar once again, and our discussion continues, and it continues with someone who is going to take us through what he thinks about the performance when it comes to PLE, and this is Mr. Sseruwa Alex, who is the Deputy Secretary General for National Private Education Institutions Association. You are welcome to Issues at Hand.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity given to me. And I also thank the viewers actually for sparing time and seeing actually such an educative program that Family TV always presents over.
Indeed. Now let's get right into it. What is your assessment of the results that were released by the Ministry of Education when it comes to PLE?
Actually, my general assessment, I would say, though many people are celebrating by the political statement that this year there is an improvement in the performance. Personally, I'm actually pitted with the number of the school dropouts. These kids who start in 2022 were 1.8 million in P1. 7 years or 9 years after, they are 800,000. Where is the 1 million? 2, there are 20,000 candidates who registered and didn't sit. So the 20,000 who didn't sit, what really went wrong? Where are those Ugandans? Above all, we have the 99,000 who failed, who are ungraded in this country. Just imagine we have the 1 million whose fate we don't know. We don't know where they are living. We don't know who they are staying with. We have the 20,000 who were absent. They are equivalent to the other absentees. Then we have the 99,000 whose fate is already known, that they failed. They have spent 10 years, 9 years in school, and they are equivalent to the other ones who didn't go to school, in other words. So, whereas a few are celebrating that yes, around 100,000 got a first grade. Yeah? Then we look at around 400 having scored a second grade. What about the 1 million who didn't sit, who didn't actually reach P7? Do we look at the underlying factors?
What are some of those underlying factors in your view?
Personally, I think one, the learning environment in schools do not attract more children to stay in school. Say, for example, the girl children. These girls, by the time they reach the puberty stage, in P1, many are enrolled. By the time they reach puberty stage, they are unable to afford a sanitary pad. Most schools do not have what I would call female conducive environment. You understand? Or an environment favorable for girls, for girl children in the puberty stage. They don't have menstrual areas, they don't have incinerators, they don't have actually even teachers talking to them about how they can handle the menstrual health. So many of the girls drop out. Then also we look at the early pregnancy. Remember, Uganda is one of those countries having the highest early marriages, having the highest young mothers, the highest rate of young mothers in the country, rather in the world. So meaning that many of these children get married off. Many of these children get early pregnancies. So at the end of the day, we have no mechanism of bringing them back to school. Then also the poverty in the country. You see, we may say, you see there are free government schools in those areas. How many areas, actually how many parishes in this country do not have schools? I think we have so many parishes. How many children cannot access a school within a kilometer, or rather within 5 to 10 kilometers? How many children cannot access school? So when you look at all that, it implies that the implication is now. Before you look at actually the fees increment, we may use it as actually 1 year district. You see, the school fees is high. That's why children are not able to go to school. But we have also government schools. But are they accessible to everyone? Are they nearer to the people? That's one. 2, also the little fee being charged in those schools. bring money for porridge, bring money for exams, bring money for this in the government funded schools. It may be little, let me say 30, rather 10,000, 5,000, but these people are poor. And being poor, it means that they are unable to pay. And many of them drop out. And also, the schools are barred from charging fees for lunch. Many children do not have an opportunity to get lunch at school. So they see no meaning of staying in school when there is no lunch. Because actually, at home, they have issues with meals. So they expect to get a good meal at school. And now schools are not allowed to charge. That's public schools are not allowed to charge lunch fee. So at the end of the day, this child gets frustrated and pulls out of school. So there are many underlying factors that are causing the school dropout. So before we celebrate, we are just looking at just a small portion of those ones who have managed to go through. But the biggest portion has remained uneducated in this country, illiterate. So it's going to become a very big burden to this country. It's going to become a very big burden as those people will not be employed. They will have no skills. Those people will not actually increase on the tax base of this country. In other words, there will be more of dependence to this country than being productive. So I'm looking at a situation that how will these people live with us in the next 10 years? What remedies do we have actually what remedies does government have for these people? What alternative education can we give them? What skills can we give them? They have dropped out of formal education. How can we equip them with the life skills that can make them survive positively in the communities? Then you come to those ones who sat. Now, look what a child who has spent 10 years in school and at the end of the day is regarded as a failure. Just look at that situation. 99,000. They are failures.
So that's what I was just coming to. That well, you've explained the underlying factors for the reason why SY candidates may drop out of school, students might drop out of school, and two, for those who might even after registering not manage to sit for the examinations. But yes, what is the cause of these failures? Is it because I know a lot of people like to blame government, but do the teachers also have a high responsibility in this? For example, last year there was a teachers' strike and teachers were not teaching. Is that something that also attributed to these failures?
Actually, teachers' strike actually has a very minimal impact on the students' results. Why? These kids were examined for the past 7 years. Not only for the only 1 month that they missed. Two, when you look at realities, 15% of these children who failed are in government schools. And actually, only 8% are in private schools. When you look at the 15%, that's approximately 87,000 children in government schools. It's a very big number. What does it mean? One, do these kids have real teachers in class? Are there teachers? There may be human beings standing before them, disguising as teachers, but in actual sense, they're not teachers. It's not only just having a qualification of a grade 3 or a degree or diploma that makes you a teacher. There are those skills we expect from you as a teacher to impart into the child. Besides, has government played its role? That's the inspection. Does it inspect the teachers in these schools? Does it give them support? Or actually, does it build their capacity? Because this is actually happening each year. Each year, we see children failing. What remedies does government have for the teachers in these schools? Actually, children have nothing to do with the performance. We cannot blame them.
Is that so? Because, well, I know we are talking about the larger picture, and
yes,
it's not good to see that this number of children failing is huge.
Yes.
But of course, you can't leave all the blame on teachers and just, of course, and this is for students out there who might be saying, teachers, no, but we also have a responsibility.
True.
To study and to ensure that we excel in exams.
Look at a 12-year-old child. Eh? Can you really transfer the burden to the 12-year-old child that really you are not working hard?
If the environment is right, then you can.
I would say
the environment.
Actually, let me make a simple illustration. A school setup is like a computer set, a full computer set. We have a keyboard that I would call the teachers. We have the CPU that's the stakeholders, and then the monitor, or what others call the screen, that is the learner. What the teachers put in and the support given by the CPU, that is the stakeholders, is what is produced on the desktop, on the screen.
But the student is a stakeholder as well.
So what you are seeing on the screen is a reflection of what has been done by these other stakeholders. That is the school, the keyboard, the CPU, the other stakeholders. The impact is seen on the screen.
That is true.
So
but
what you've not done as a teacher, and also if the CPU has a challenge, that is when the stakeholders have not played their role, the child will be.
But a student is a stakeholder as well.
True.
Because you will agree with me that there can be the right circumstances. The teachers have capacity in a certain school.
Yes.
The school fees have been paid, but yet still and the reason I'm bringing this up is because we are family TV and we have a responsibility to disciple our children and tell them, you need to know why you're in school, read your books, work hard so that you can excel and prosper in the future. So your child is also a stakeholder.
Actually, for us as teachers, we have just a few slogans. One, show me a good teacher, I show you good children. Show me a good child, I show you a good parent. The nation is because we are. Meaning that a good nation is a reflection of good teachers. A bad nation or a poorly organized nation is a reflection of the poor state of the teachers.
The citizens.
The teachers.
The teachers.
Because we are the influencers of all activities in the country. So we impact a lot on the outcomes of the learners. Likewise, we impact a lot on the state of affairs of the country. So the poor performance is a reflection that teachers lack something. One, what's the motivation of these teachers? Let me use an example in government schools. Whether all children perform well or if all of them fail, you are paid the same. So whether you work hard or not, you all earn the same. That's one. So why should you bother anyway? You understand? Two, when you look at the rate of inspection, inspections are carried out in private schools. Why? You know the factors that influence the inspection in private schools. Because the people expect private schools, maybe they are always caught on the wrong, so we have to see that they improve. Government, no one minds. What about the enrollment in government schools? It's too high. You look at a class in a given government school, when it has actually 150 children being handled by one teacher. Really, you realize that this teacher cannot manage to handle the 150 children in one classroom. So, at the end of the day, efficiency becomes limited. What about the staffing, general staffing? You find a school with 1,000 children having 7 teachers. Having 14 teachers, really can they manage effectively to handle these children? So, at the end of the day, there are underlying factors. Those underlying factors are caused by the teachers and government as a stakeholder.
Like we said at the start, that we are celebrating an improved performance.
Yes.
Now, we have to balance the equation in this discussion because whilst there are 90,000 that are ungraded,
yes,
there are those who have excelled and we have seen
yes,
an improvement in their performance. So isn't it just a matter of taking what has led to the improvement of the performance and transferring it onto this issue of these ungraded students?
Actually, I would say, like Jesus, he didn't come for the righteous. He came for the sinners. Our work as teachers is to look for these children who are challenged. How can we help them? If we leave them and we just focus on these ones who have succeeded, you understand? Then we will not
focus on those who have
then
succeeded, but just using the same system that
yes.
Borrowing the system that helped in the improvement of the performance and using it to transferring it to the 90,000.
Yes, and then also when you look at the general performance, yes, I would say there is an improvement compared to the previous performance, but we also need to look at factors. The previous performance of that is 2020, 2021. Children were in the lockdown. They didn't actually have a full coverage of the syllabus because the time frame was limited. They had actually only 7 months out of the 13 months, rather 13 weeks. They had 8 weeks in school out of the 13 weeks. 8 months they were in school instead of the 12 months they were meant to be in school. You understand? That is, their learning was interrupted, in other words. These ones had actually even extra time. One, they began early in January. Two, they did their exams actually almost in the second week of November. So they had more time, a longer time to learn than other previous candidate classes. Then two, these kids, being that we all understand that they were on automatic promotion, they had work that they had missed in primary 6. So teachers taught a lot, knowing that these children were challenged. So many teachers put in a lot of time. They borrowed actually all the excess time, using extra classes, you understand, to see that they cover the syllabus and then prepare these kids, which was actually not the case in the previous years. Then also, we need to look at also the other factor, that these kids also, parents were more supportive. Why? They had seen that their kids had sat home for 2 years. So, and sitting home for 2 years, every parent was eager to see a child back to school. So, they were so supportive to see that their children are not challenged. And above all, also I think UNEP was actually favorable to these kids. Why? It didn't complicate the setting style. So it favored these kids. It understood that these kids were traumatized by the 2 years of the lockdown. So it was a bit fair for them. So that's why I say all those factors helped these kids to perform. So what does it mean? One lesson we learn, this 2023 academic year and other academic years, the preceding academic years, we need to give these children ample time. That is starting a bit earlier and also not actually ending the academic year. That is at the end of October. We need to give it a longer time so that teachers can teach well, complete the syllabus, prepare the candidates well.
When it comes to the issue of those who are ungraded, and also I'd like you to speak to what we can do as the way forward when it comes to ensuring schools do not have dropouts.
Yeah, actually, one, on the issue of dropouts, I think instead of actually us coming out and crying foul over time, because this has been the system we are going through every year. The biggest number of learners who are enrolled in P1 do not complete primary 7. So what should we do? One, I think we need to vocationalize education right away from primary, so that when these kids have vocational skills, even if they do not complete primary 7, they are able to have life skills that can make them survive in the world. Two, we need to also understand that the formal kind of assessment does not actually judge the mental ability of a person. Look what a situation that today many parents are yearning for fours, aggregate fours. Almost, it's now the song everywhere. They're no longer looking now at a first grade. Everyone is saying, we want a 4. Where is the 4?
How many fours does
How many 4s have you got? But we miss out a point. A 4 is meant to be for a genius. That's what I understand. A genius in academics, a genius in the academic arena. Now, if you get the geniuses, is everyone meant to be a genius? How many geniuses in the normal out of school lifestyle do we have? How many geniuses do we have? I think we have majority people as average human beings. They just become either above average or below average. That's the majority of the people on the planet. A few are geniuses. A few geniuses are the ones who have made the actual discoveries. Now, when you look at the force that we are looking at today as engagement for excellent performance, what's the impact of those people who have scored the force in their life after school? Tell me, how many people do you know that have made great strides in business? Have become actually the biggest business, the actual, I would say, the business giants in this country, the business entrepreneurs. How many of those ones got force? How many best engineers do we have that scored force in their primary? How many are the best doctors in this country that scored force? So we don't need to use 4 as a parameter. We don't need to use a first grade as a parameter of someone's mental ability. Just imagine you are gauging someone who has spent 10 years in school in just 2 hours. Just 2 hours. You summarize everything you've learned in 10 years in just 2 hours. Then somebody gauges you and says what he has not asked. Or when he has asked what you don't remember, he says now you're no longer just a genius. You understand? So this result, we are just celebrating those ones who are able to cram. It is a game for the crammers. How many have been able to cram and get a first grade? Note, what skills have you learned that even if you don't proceed to a secondary, that you can ably make an impact in the community? You understand? You find somebody who has scored a first grade or aggregate 4 when he's unable to even clean the environment he's living in, is unable to do something impactful to the community. So meaning that it is actually not worth celebrating these results. We need actually to make a reflection on what skills can you give our children by the age of 12. In the 10-year-old, the 10-year old course, what should this child come up with besides writing on paper, summarizing everything in of the 10 years? The 10-year-old course, what has this child learned that will impact the society? So that's why I say, let us put also vocational skills. What can be done actually is, in each parish, the government would set up actually a vocational skill, a vocational institute, or a vocational school, whereby schools around could also use this as a center for training their children. You understand? We may not actually be able to put a vocational school in each area, but we can put one in a parish so that all schools around use it as a center for training their children. So that by the time this child completes a 10-year course, is able to do something else. Like, I'll give an example. We need these children who are good carpenters. This is furniture that these kids can make. Where we are seated, it's furniture. We are putting on this, which is actually not done by professors. So we let us train these kids so that they have both the formal skill that is based on the 4 subjects. Then they also have the vocational skill, so that if a child fails here, can actually come up here with this skill and help the nation. Then too, we need also to see, how do we support the children who have dropped out of school currently? Can we have an alternative basic education for the dropouts, so that they acquire some basics of life that can make them survive positively in the community. Otherwise, I'm worried that these kids may become the gangsters of the community. These kids may become violent at the end of the day. They may be used by opportunists to turn against the community, turn against civilization. So we need to have a solution for these kids who are dropping out.
Indeed, that's true. Now, another issue that has been raised that is very apparent is the issue of absenteeism by both teachers and students. What could be the cause of this?
One, the motivation on the side of teachers. Motivation. What are the motivating factors that are making this teacher to go and work? And two, in case, what are the reinforcements? If a teacher does not actually attend school for a given period of time, what are those negative reinforcements? That a teacher knows, there is a repercussion in case I don't attend. What about the learners? Have we come to know how these learners are affected by the home environment? Say, for example, I'll give an example. In some communities, say, for example, the fishing communities, these kids have to first go and fish. Then after fishing, they come to school. So on a good day when there is a lot of fish and they're making a lot of good money, they're making a lot of good dimes in selling out their fish, they don't come to school. So can we have those motivating factors that make these children actually love coming to school? Do we have those factors that motivate teachers to come to school? Then, do we have a mechanism of fighting poverty? Because many of these absenteeism cases actually among learners is caused due to poverty. Because these children are engaged in child labor. They have to look for money to make their families survive. So at the end of the day, they don't come to school. They don't see a need of coming to school. Two, our parents are aware of their responsibilities. Many of the parents think child going to school is just an option. Besides, they just think it's government that wants their children to go to school, but it's not a parent responsibility. So at the end of the day, you realize that the parents have no reason why they send their children to school or encourage their children to be at school. And above all, they don't even see a need because they have seen so many who have gone through school and they're not successful. So they say, let my child also engage in this informal kind of work. After all, he's going to earn money that will make us survive. So there is a need to sensitize parents on the need to send children to school. There is a need to fight poverty at the household level. There is a need to motivate teachers so that they can ably come to school and teach. Then also need to motivate learners, put up actually an environment that is conducive for learners to stay in school. Then also look at corporal punishments used in some schools, especially in the rural areas. They chase our children from school. Many of us were victims of corporal punishments. I think for us who studied during those years, you know what used to happen. So many children end up actually dropping out of school just because of corporal punishments. So can we phase out corporal punishments? Can we look for alternatives to corporal punishments? So I think many of these issues, if they are addressed, we can have a bigger enrollment, we can have all children stay in school. Can we look at the menstrual health of girls? Can we fight early pregnancies? And above all, those ones who have dropped out of school, can we have a solution? That is, can we skill them? Let us teach them tailoring. Let us teach them carpentry. Let us teach them brickmaking, among others, so that they can become productive in the community. That's what I think.
Indeed. Now, very quickly, an issue that is ongoing right now is the debate. Well, I don't know whether it's a debate because the policy has already been passed by government. That's the policy concerning regulation of school fees.
Yes.
Has the status quo changed, or are we still, are schools still required to follow the regulation as prescribed by the Ministry of Education?
Actually, I love one thing in Uganda. Uganda is a country that moves accidentally. Why do I say that? Right now as we talk, UNEB is actually raising the registration fees. Yeah? It is saying the cost of operation is high. But remember, UNEB, one, is funded by government. It's funded by taxpayers. Yeah? Because these are government employees. They are saying the cost of operation is high. We are raising the registration fees. But we're telling private schools that are buying the same things in the same market, please don't raise fees. Yeah? Right now, if you go to Chikubo or to Chiembe, you realize that almost prices of all school requirements have risen by 10 to 50%. Parents have to look for money to buy those requirements. And schools are told to keep bay at the previous fees they were paying. Honestly, are we sincere to ourselves? I just look at this as if we're just politicizing. If you're looking at raising teachers' salaries in government schools, because actually in the forthcoming budget, they have put over 500 billion to increase salaries of teachers. The question is, if we retain the status quo for private schools, don't teachers of private schools need also salary increment? Yeah? Is the economy affecting only those ones in government? Have they set up a special market for teachers and private schools? Yeah? That for them, they are buying from this market where prices of these commodities are fully regulated? Honestly, we need to be fair to each other. And I'm looking at this, that the government is losing the battle. That's why it's coming up to say, you see, don't increase fees, retain the status quo of last year. Then you ask the question, we are just 1 week to the opening of the academic year. What, just 1 week. When are they going to make a statement? Is it just on the day of reopening? When are parents going to plan? Because they have been confused. We are regulating fees, we are regulating fees. Parents are waiting to see. You're regulating. What are you regulating? Now, the government is saying, let us go back to the previous fees. If the previous fees was best on for government to come and put up a regulation.
By previous fees, you mean the fees that were
paid for the
last year?
Yes, paid in the last academic year. Government saw it as high fees for parents. That's why it came up to put up a regulation. Then today, what has changed? Is it really helping parents? Is it helping schools?
So what do you believe, very quickly, because you're coming to an end, what do you believe the way forward should be?
One, government should leave the issues of fees to parents and school directors. That's one. Why? If we are in a free market economy where a parent who affords a particular school, let that parent go to that school. A parent who can't afford, let him or her look for his standards where he fits. Then two, let government support its schools by creating a conducive learning environment, producing a better outcomes, learning outcomes, so that they become competitive, and then let parents go to those schools expecting the best. Otherwise, coming up with so many laws that are impractical, unenforceable, makes them redundant, and actually it becomes politics at the end of the day. Education should not be used as a political tool to appease the voters. Education is a pillar of national building. We should not play with it. So the best way is leave issues of fees to teachers, rather directors of schools and the parents. Let them come to a consensus. Let a parent understand his role and responsibility in a particular school. If he sees that he cannot manage, let him look for his standards where he fits, other than government coming up with such confusing regulations.
Indeed, and we hope that this matter will be solved since, like you said, schools are just about to open. Thank you so much, Mr. Alex Sseruwa, for addressing those issues. And
thank you for the opportunity given.
Our pleasure.
And I thank the viewers of Family TV.
Our
thank
pleasure.
you for sparing time. Yes.
Indeed, and we pray that all will be sorted, and that come next year when we are receiving the results of PLE, it will be a better picture of excellence and no ungraded results, because we want all our children to excel well. Thank you for joining us on Issues at Hand today. We have more coming in tomorrow, but for now it's time for us to get to coffee break. Then after that we go to the farm with Brenda Mahoro in Family Farm. God richly bless you.